now close off the launch of this initiative. We'll now move on to the Masterclass session, where we'll have our first speaker, Mr. Dean Gera, founder of Dean Gera Hair Studios. And coming from a family of hairdressers, Mr. Gera took up hairdressing professionally at the tender age of 16 and worked alongside his mother for a solid 4 years. However, training and working in London under Trevor Sorbie and his prestigious salon in Covent Garden was a dream come true for Dean, which gave him the confidence to develop his own style. Mr. Dean Gera, I invite you to address the audience.
Good afternoon, everyone. Basically, as introduced, my name is Dean Gera. I currently direct, I'm a director in 3 hairdressing salons, and I come from a background in hairdressing. Basically, the majority of my family are all hairdressers. I'm here today to just give you a small summary of my journey through all this, and show you how, by starting off slow and small, I managed to grow into a small business. Basically, when I was 14, my mother asked if I was interested in helping out in one of her salons, and at that age, I thought, well, for some extra pocket money and a job, it would be cool to start off and go in to help out. It was just helping out around the salon, just making teas, coffees, basic shampooing, but it didn't take long for me to find out that this is what I really wanted to do. The satisfaction of seeing a customer come into the salon and leave with such a smile and being so content with the service that we gave, I mean, took me by surprise, and I just really wanted to go all out and go for this industry. So when I was when I finished school and did my O-levels, I decided to go into MCOST and attend the apprenticeship course, which meant me going into MCOST twice a week to do the theory and practice, but then practice 3 times a week in the salon. This took 3 years. I worked very hard to get my technique up and get on track within hairdressing. And after all this, after all the hard work that I put in, my mother gave me the foundations to grow as a hairdresser, and I felt confident enough to actually work in this industry. I wanted to set new goals. So I decided to take things to a new level and try working in London. Luckily, I got in contact with Trevor Sorbie, which was always a lifetime dream for me to work with such a company. And after a few interviews and meetings, I managed to get in. This didn't mean I was ready for them to work as a stylist. I needed to do an intensive program of 2 months where I needed to find models off the street and bring them in to practice the haircuts they wanted me to practice. After 2 months of this intense training and finding models, which built my confidence, because I never had the experience to go on the street and just pick up random people and convince them to come in. I managed to get the job, which meant working on the salon floor as a stylist. I did so for 2 years, but apart from all the hairdressing techniques and professionality that this salon taught me, I also learned how to run a salon, the professionality they took towards clientele, and the way they ran a salon. After 2 years of working at Trevor Sorbie, I decided to come back down to Malta Basically, most probably the weather got to me, and I had a decision to make, whether to go back to working in my mother's salon or venture off alone. The relationship I had with my mother, working and at home with my mother, was great and is still great, and that's why I opted to venture off alone. I didn't want to jeopardize our relationship by working in a family organization. Unfortunately, in Malta, more often than not, family businesses end up quite rough, and I didn't really want that to happen. So my next option was looking for a salon, and I sort of found a salon that I thought would be right for me, and going into all the expenses and business presentations and business plans that I needed to get investments took some time, and luckily I had a friend of mine who runs a couple of spas on the island and asked me if I was interested in taking over a salon that they had at the spa at the Radisson back then. And I looked into it and I said this was perfect for me. There was no real initial investment, just me being present and starting off with a few products to get me going. After 2 years of working in this salon, there were 2 very successful years, I realized that I needed a bigger space. I needed a bigger salon. It was getting too crowded. I didn't feel that my clients were getting the treatment, the professional treatment they deserved, and I opted to expand. This is when I started looking again for further salons, and I found out, or I discovered, that the Corinthia St. George also had a salon that was available, that wasn't in use for the past 4 months. And after ongoing meetings and looking at contracts, I finally decided that this was the next step up, and I decided to take on this salon. On doing so, the Corinthia in contract agreed that if I took over this salon, the Corinthia Palace also had a salon that was available, so it was a deal that if I took over one salon, I had to take over both. So I did so. But on that note, I also told them that I needed a 3-month window where I needed to invest in IT systems and on training of employees and finding a team suitable to fit my brand. So finding a team started off with interviews and CVs. I went through easily over 100, and I managed to find a good group of young hairdressers that had the ambition and the drive to help me pursue what I wanted to do. I tried and also take back the necessary training I had when I was in London, so I, on a smaller scale, got them in once a week or a few times a week to get in their cuts and colours, and I brushed them up on the training, and that took about 2 months before we got the ball rolling. I also needed to invest. This was the first time I needed to really invest money in a computing system which could help me keep track on all 3 salons. And I did so. I found one that was tailor-made for me, and in November 2010 I formed the Gera Haircare Limited. So what I learned through all this about running a successful industry and having a proper brand that you truly believe in is having strong foundations. Now, strong foundations, in my opinion, were always set as thinking positive, having a good product, and having a good team. A team of people that have the same drive and ambition you do to make your project succeed. Positive thinking was always one of my philosophies. If you think positive, then positive things would happen to you. If not, then you're going to fall back into a trap and nothing's going to happen. And aiming to be the best. Aiming to be the best is a slogan that I always use. It doesn't mean you're going to be the best, but by aiming, you're there, you're trying, you're working hard, you're being driven into the right direction. Things that also helped me through this is not rushing. I took things slow, I never rushed, I never took on things that I couldn't cope with. I never bit off more than I could chew, as in I didn't want to grow to an extent where my product was slacking. I always believed in customer care being on top, the services should always be the same, and the professionality towards clients would always be intact. Remembering the journey, I mean, it was 6 years that I started at Radisson. I know how hard I've worked for it, and I know that in a blink of an eye it can all go. So you should always keep the level of services, of customer care to a certain height that you're happy with, and always try to be successful. And pride and humility. I mean, never think you're better than you are. Never think you're God or anything like that. I mean, always be happy with what you have. Always strive to achieve greater things, but always do it by keeping your feet on the ground and aiming to please people.
Well, you only need the light when it's burning low.